There is nothing like the victory formation. Denver Broncos started the season 1-5. They are now at 500, 5-5 with a win over the Minnesota Vikings, ending their 5-game win streak. The Broncos extending to a 4-game win streak, and it is time for Denver Sports Postgame Live. I am your host, Cecil Lammey. Excited, ready to talk about this game, ready to talk about this team, and ready to talk what the Broncos can do going forward. I just tweeted it. I just tweeted that the playoff chances grow from 11% to 28%. Yeah, good job, Broncos. It didn't look good, but again, leaning back to what this team was going to be this season, it was like, okay, prepare for some close games, prepare for some ugly wins, and this game had some ugliness to it, but let's celebrate the victory for the Denver Broncos, continuing that streak to 4 games now. And the playoff chances grow from 11% entering this game to now 28% roughly. You'll see some different numbers, but the chances are improving. This team at 500, getting hot, maybe a little bit too early, but getting hot and building off of the momentum that they've built. And I'll even go back to that Thursday night game against Kansas City that they lost. That was a game where I don't believe in moral victories, but that was the type of game where that victory helped build this momentum, because you learned you could hang with Kansas City. Then you learned you could beat Kansas City. Then you learned you could beat Buffalo. You beat Green Bay on the way. You beat Minnesota, who put up a hell of a fight out there. And it was a great job by the Denver Broncos to get this win. And I'll go through the box score here, because again, it was very odd with the way that the Broncos put this thing together. An odd game plan with only 15 rushes. Like, this win streak has been fueled by the ground game. And I don't believe there was any sort of, Javonte Williams being dinged up or them going away from him. They just didn't have a plan on running the ball. And Minnesota also changed that plan. Something else I also tweeted about earlier in this contest is like, you're letting Minnesota dictate to you. Don't do that. Go out there and dictate to them. Dictate by running your offense in the best way that you can. And to me, that's running the ball. They didn't do that. They didn't do that at all. Minnesota was stuffing the run, and they were content in not running. And they were content with letting Russell Wilson try to win this thing through the air. He did. And many, many thanks to Courtland Sutton, who comes through with the game clinching touchdown. It was fantastic to see. You certainly see that heart from a Courtland Sutton, and you see how that connection with Russell Wilson comes through in crunch time. In crunch time, he shows up, he shows out, the Broncos win. Justin Simmons with huge plays. Like, my mind is just racing right now, because you have so many things to go over with this team. And again, take the good, take the bad, you're going to take it all, because the Minnesota Vikings came in here riding a win streak, the best story in the league with Josh Dobbs. Yeah, they're taking the L on the way out. And the Broncos did it in a different way. Now, I hope that they adjust from this and change things going forward. And certainly the Cleveland Browns are going to be very tough. Not getting ahead of myself, kind of getting ahead of myself, because now you're thinking on this roll. Now, how do you maintain that? How do you keep that up? And Minnesota, with the exotic blitzes that you saw from this defense, Brian Flores probably doesn't like Sean Payton a whole lot. That's just a guess. There's a lot of coaches out there that don't like Sean Payton. Brian Flores put together a game plan to really confuse and confound this team. But as Chris Collinsworth noted, and say what you will about Chris Collinsworth, here's a guy that owns Pro Football Focus and studies the film, and knew, like, anytime they show that zero, they're always going to drop like 3 guys. So they'll show you zero blitz, everybody's coming, and then they're playing man in the backside. So you're rushing 8 and have 3 in coverage. Nah, they'll drop back guys. Now, sometimes they bring guys. It's up to you to decide. It's up to you to prepare for this team. So Flores was, frustrating Sean Payton, to be sure. And in crunch time, it's when the Broncos got it done. And they got it done with a lot of Samaje Perine. I tweeted about this earlier. Like, Samaje Perine probably not real happy with his role. I'm just guessing. He would never say it. He doesn't talk to the media. I mean, he does, but he doesn't tell us much. He usually makes fun of our questions and just tries to get out of the interview. as fast as he can. It's much different than earlier, like in the offseason when Samaje was pretty talkative and one of those guys you could rely on at the podium. Now that's not the case. So whatever, frustration, maybe he just is sick of talking to the media. I don't know. I don't care, because at the end of this game, Samaje Perine came through for this team. They've got a total tell when Jaleel McLaughlin's out there. When Jaleel McLaughlin's out there, he's getting the ball. Period. 5 catches, 14 yards. It's not good enough for Jaleel. Like, he needs to rip off one of those big ones. Now he can, but he needs to. 1 carry for 1 yard. It's not good enough. Samaje Perine coming through, 7 catches, 7 targets, 7 catches, 60 yards in this performance. Absolutely one of the key contributors for this team as they're marching the ball down the field to get in range for that nice pass. Let the big man go get it. Cortland Sutton goes up and gets that touchdown to essentially seal this game on 5 targets. He had 4 catches, 66 yards, and 1 touchdown. So the Broncos do it in a different way. And as we go through this season, this was going to happen eventually, right? I'm honestly surprised, and I said this on Orange and Blue today. I'm surprised Buffalo didn't try this. I'm surprised Buffalo wasn't like, let's just stack the line and stuff the run. It's not really what they do. On the flip side, you also saw Minnesota run the ball. It's why I was angry with Vance Joseph and lots of missed tackles. Like, this was not a good game for Alex Singleton whatsoever. Josie Jewell came through and made some plays, thank goodness. But Alex Singleton, either out of position, not attacking sometimes. I think he got a little bit timid out there. And then just flat out missing tackles, or having a guy like Madison break through his like hand tackle, not even an arm tackle, but just like a hand tackle, trying to hang on to his jersey. So Singleton with a rough day, this defense getting gashed on the ground. It was Dalton Reisner leading the way. And I thought it was funny, interesting how Dalton Reisner was picking up everybody. After almost every play, Dalton Reisner was over with the handout to pick guys up. Something that, we saw last year they took issue with. Either way, getting off track. There's a lot to get to in this game. There's a lot to break down. There's a lot to be concerned with still with this team. But W's are all that matters. So as I've said on the airwaves, on 104.3 The Fan, as I've said on Orange and Blue today, hey, it's kind of ugly. Hey, they're not. Yeah. W, did they win? They won. Yeah. Okay. Who cares? They're finding ways to win. Now, when it starts clicking, and it's clicked a little bit, certainly with the ground game. Today, it was not until that final drive, Samaje Perine and Cortland Sutton saving the day for this team. Jerry Jeudy almost letting this game slip through his fingers. I know it was interfered with. The refs suck, but good teams overcome bad refs. The Broncos are learning how to win. Again, my most important takeaway from the Buffalo game is they're now figuring out how to win. Now, the key was running the ball, playing great defense, rushing the quarterback. I'll talk about Josh Dobbs and what the defense did a little bit later, certainly late in this game. And as I said, Josh Dobbs is a great story. He's not a great quarterback. I mean, guy doesn't bounce around like that. And then all of a sudden, like, oh my God, he's MVP. Rich Gannon did it once, right? And you could always tell Gannon, especially when he was with the Chiefs, like, there's a little something there. And if he started in that playoff game against the Broncos instead of Elvis Gerbach, I'm not sure the Broncos win. Even some of those Broncos that were on those teams have told me that. Like, Gannon was much more significant then. But either way, getting off track. Like, Josh Dobbs, great story, not a great quarterback. Broncos didn't necessarily expose him, and certainly their poor tackling didn't help. But when it came into a situation where they had to move the ball through the air, they were able to pressure Dobbs. They were able to cover those receivers. Even though Jordan Addison got open on one pass, Pat Surtain let him open. It's like, come on, Surtain, that's a rookie. It's a first rounder, talented first rounder to be sure. But you got to cover that. You got to get on that guy. And that's where this Broncos defense, it broke a couple times, pieced themselves back together, and then didn't really bend. Justin Simmons, happy birthday, Justin. They say he was 30. Yeah, he's a young man. Still got plenty of time left, but Justin Simmons coming through, making huge plays on TJ Hawkinson. Again, tight ends are something this team doesn't regularly cover. They figured it out against Travis Kelce, kind of, with the box and one. And then Hawkinson was getting them when linebackers were on him. Even, I believe, Jonathan Cooper, I saw, was tasked with covering him one time. That's a mistake. The Vikings took advantage of that. But it was Justin Simmons with 2 plays, almost 2 of the exact same plays in the same spot, that knocks the ball away from TJ Hawkinson, that helps secure this Broncos victory. As all Minnesota had to do was get into field goal range and kick one in and win this thing and go home and have a 6-game win streak. Nope. Streak ends at 5. Broncos streak extends to 4. And let's keep this thing rolling. But learning how to win is important because it's not like everything was smooth for this team. It wasn't. They didn't run the ball. They couldn't stop the run. Russ was off. There was a lot of 3 and outs. What were they? I believe at one time like 0-7 on third down. I'll look at what they finished for the day. But like if you look at the situation, you're judged as a player, as quarterback specifically, third down in the red zone. Third down, they were 2 of 12. So yeah, I'm sure at one point they were like 0 of 7, whatever the number was, because I kept getting people sending me tweets about that. Like, you're blaming the defense, but the offense sucks. Like, yeah, the offense wasn't having a great day. That's for sure. Special teams didn't have a perfect day. Had a fake punt there that Minnesota executed perfectly, and they got one over on the Broncos, who were not prepared for that whatsoever, for Ty Chandler to take off and run with that. So when you look at what this Broncos team has done, they won ugly, okay, but they won. And I don't want to take away from that whatsoever. Now, the things that we learn, the things that we take away, hopefully that they learn from their own film study, is like, don't be hesitant to go away from the run. And when Minnesota stacks the line to stuff the run, they're essentially giving you an option of which way to go. Again, I don't often praise Chris Collinsworth, but when you watch this game, Collinsworth was telling you, like, see how they're lining up and how they're telling you, like, you got to go one way or the other. You pick it, and then they'll attack it. Well, the Broncos were just kind of like, let's get out of this. And that's where I was frustrated with them, like letting the Vikings dictate. No, just run the ball down their throat. They have to match you. They have to match your energy. And some of those short passes, especially the ones to P. Ryan, that can be complemented to the ground game. So if we look at Russell Wilson's passing chart, and I don't have it in front of me, or else I would talk more about it. But when we look at the 35 passing attempts, well, 7 of those were to Samaje, and you could say those were long handoffs, basically. Help them move the chains in crunch time. It's exactly what it did. Jerry Jeudy with a good day, not a great day, catches that touchdown. It would have been a great day. And I think even though he was interfered on that play, he should have caught it. Russ took a big hit, put the ball where it needed to be. Although somebody was arguing like he floated it a little too much. He was getting hit and he threw it up there and he put it in a spot where Jeudy should have caught it. Either way, again, not perfection, but I don't think anyone should be looking for perfection with this team. I think instead you need to be looking for, are you learning from your mistakes and are you growing as a team? This was a day where the ground game, I still blame them. They didn't run enough. They didn't have the dedication of the run, but the ground game was not working. Okay. The ground game was not working whatsoever. So what did they learn? 3.1 a carry and only 15 carries. 35 passing attempts. And I've always said Russell Wilson is better between 20 and 25 passing attempts. But if we take 7 of those to Samaje and even maybe the ones to Javonte and Jaleel, now we're talking about 14 of those targets basically being long handoffs. Are you learning how to kind of run with longer handoffs? Now, if you take 14 of those 35 completions away, don't make me do math, but what is that, 21? Passing attempts that were actual passing attempts to actual receivers, not just long handoffs to the running backs. Again, that's being a little fudging the numbers a little bit. But if we look at the ground game wasn't working, how do you attack? And it's similar to the ground game. It's safe because, and was it Vince Lombardi that said, when you pass the ball, 3 things can happen and 2 of them aren't good? 3 things can happen when you pass the ball. 2 of them aren't good. One's an incompletion, one's an interception. But when you're doing these short passes that are essentially long handoffs, it's like a toss. Like, here you go, Jaleel. They got to figure out a better way to use Jaleel McLaughlin. It's not beneficial for him. It's not beneficial for them because he's not breaking anything long. He's not breaking off this 80-yarder. He's not pulling off a Keaton Mitchell like Mitchell has done for the Ravens a couple of times. Like, that's what you want to see. With Samaje, it's working. And again, because Samaje doesn't talk to the media types, I'm just going to guess the guy that was mad at Cincinnati for not getting used is probably mad at Denver for not getting used until today. Now, again, publicly, that information is not known, and I'm just guessing, okay? But in knowing this game and knowing how players operate, and Samaje would be one to go quietly to the coaching staff or quietly to his quarterback, perhaps, or quietly to his offense coordinator. Again, Samaje Perine's not going to say, like, give me the rock, I should get the ball more. but he is going to let his feelings be known. And that veteran that can make plays for you, certainly as his receiving skills are fantastic. His receiving skills are very strong. Again, not any sort of ankle breaker, but you want an efficient player that's going to pick up what he can and then break some tackles along the way. That is 1000% Samaje Perine. So Perine, whether he voiced his discontent to the coaching staff or not, I think he'd be happy with this performance because he helped him win the game. Sutton gets that touchdown, but it's Samaje Perine's play that helps him win the game, that settles Russell Wilson down. And even during the game, God bless America. What? I must have drank too much caffeine because I'm going to praise Chris Collinsworth for the third time. Collinsworth said, Russ gets in these situations, and it's human nature. So I'm not going to bag on Russell Wilson for this because most quarterbacks do this. We're down. I've got to make the play. It's called hero ball. And it's crushing for Russell Wilson because Russ can't really play hero ball anymore. Russ can run an efficient offense. Russ can sprinkle those short passes, take some of those shots when he needs to. Russ can still do that, but he can't play hero ball. And he gets this temptation. Almost the way to beat the Broncos and to beat Russell Wilson is like put Russ in hero ball mode. Now, to his credit, he's listening to the staff because he's running the plays and as designed. And he's doing what the coaching staff wants him to do, which was obviously, hey, if Perine's there, just let Perine do it. You don't need to look for that moon ball, baby. It's going to be there. And what's going to be there, throw it up, let the big man go get it. That is Cortland Sutton. But you don't have to, you're not going to score 21 points on every throw. All right. And Russell Wilson falls into that trap. He's done a better job of avoiding that. It's basically a mental block. So Russell Wilson, to his credit, has avoided that mental block of like, I got to do everything, guys, to now, how can I be the distributor? How can I be the point guard, if you will? So I'm just out there distributing other guys, letting the playmakers make the plays, right? It's why I like the targets to Marvin Mims, not as many as they needed to be. And certainly there was the one target that could have been a score. Had Mims and Russell Wilson had better chemistry, Mims knows during scramble drill, break, go, especially with that speed. I mean, that should honestly be the rule for Mims regardless. And usually in scramble drills is if you're running left, run right, or try to follow your quarterback. Where's your quarterback going? Try to come back to the ball, right? These are all things you're taught. And some guys, if you're on a short route, then run go. I think, and I have to go back and watch the coach's tape, but like Marvin Mims, because of his speed, anytime there's a scramble drill with Russell Wilson, just go. Because Russ threw the go. You'll be shocked to know Russ threw the moon ball. And Mims came back to the ball. So there was a disconnect there. But I like the idea of essentially, in a way, taking the ball out of Russell Wilson's hands and saying, Russ, you don't have to do everything. We've got guys that can do things. We've got Samaje Perine. We've got Jerry Jeudy, who, again, should have caught that touchdown, whatever. You've got Mims. You've got Sutton, obviously. Even Adam Troutman was making some plays. Who knew? And he was breaking tackles afterwards. So it was like, wow. What got into Adam Troutman? I don't know, but I like it. So, like, yes, calm down Russ, kind of block Russ from himself in terms of like, hey, Russ, be comfortable, man. When you're out there and you're, not necessarily panicked, but just like trying to pick up the pace and I got to make the plays and I got to do everything. No. You don't have to do that. You got Sean Payton. Trust that he'll design something for you. I was discouraged with the game plan, not including 20 carries for Javonte Williams. I thought that was a weekly thing. And he was on pace for 10 carries with 5 at halftime. And he ends up this day with 11 carries, 37 yards on the day, one of them on a 15-yard carry. So not much on the other 10 carries, to be sure, 10 for 22. So 3-4 is total, but 2.2 on average for all the other carries. They completely abandoned the run. Even Russell Wilson didn't run that much. And that's something that was a little bit odd based on what they'd done during the win streak. Now, this is natural. So if I'm going to bag on them for not running the ball enough, like that's how you got on this win streak, I also will say it's natural for teams like Minnesota to say, we're going to stuff the line, stop the run. And it's also natural for a team to say, how else can we figure this out? Because you have to, right? You can win a lot of games with the formula that they had, that they started their 3-game win streak on. You can win a lot of games, run the ball, play great defense. Run the ball, get after the quarterback. That is a recipe for success. It doesn't matter who your quarterback is. It doesn't matter how experienced your quarterback is. It doesn't matter. If you can run the ball and you can pressure the opposing quarterback, you can win a lot of games in this league. You can't win in the postseason because in the postseason, you got to change it up. You got to do something different. And now the Broncos' playoff chances go from 11% to 28%. So a monumental victory for Sean Payton and company tonight. Does it lead to the postseason? Who the hell knows? But all I know is now this team, even though your heart, you're going to have some heart issues watching this team, you eventually will see some good football. You didn't see good football to begin this thing. Vance Joseph definitely had an odd game plan. And again, the Vance Joseph defenders, and it's only true, right? Because, everyone has an opinion and that's great. But you get people that say like, well, you were praising Vance Joseph during the win streak. Yeah, because he was doing a good job. Today, the plan was not good. Like they ran all over him until you couldn't. And when Josh Dobbs started passing more, Minnesota's game fell off. But Alexander Madison had his way with this team. So as I'm tweeting about Vance Joseph, and I'm like, it's about the body of work. I remember Zach Bye asked me on the drive this week, like, have you changed your mind about Vance Joseph? Because I'm the guy that said on this show, Vance Joseph will be fired after the Dolphins game because, well, I would have done that. And honestly, I expected him to. That sort of embarrassment, it's not the type of stuff that is tolerated in the National Football League. I don't care if it's week 3 or week 13 or week 35. It doesn't matter. Like that stuff isn't tolerated. But I told Zach Bye last week, it's the body of work. And outside of one solid season with the Arizona Cardinals, if we contain all of his years as defense coordinator, it hasn't been good outside of 1 year. This year's like half and half. And even today, and people started responding and saying, well, he's not tackling. He can't tackle. Yeah, tackling was piss poor today. But also, you're not putting your defenders in the right spot, in the right position. Again, go watch Alex Singleton. And I like Alex, as I've joked on this show. Like, I get hair tips from Alex, but he did not have a good day today. Not at all whatsoever. And he was out of position. And part of that is on him, and part of that is on Vance Joseph. So, again, we're going to say the good things. Good thing is they won. The good thing is they learned how to win differently. And I think that's the most important takeaway in this entire conversation about this Broncos team. They learned how to win differently. If they would have come out and said, they're going to run the ball, one, I would have loved it. More Javonte, please. And if they would have ran 25, 35 times and they would have won, and it would have been close. The Broncos are not built to blow anyone out of the water. If there's a 35-10 sort of game, that doesn't happen with this team. Okay. They're not built for that. What they're built for is to play close games, make your heart palpitate, and then hopefully get the win. That's what they did today. And they did it collectively. Again, they're winning together. They're staying together, even when the media and the fans and all that, like, yeah, they don't care about that in that room. And they're maintaining that chip on their shoulder. Part of it is their own play, but part of it is they're maintaining that chip on their shoulder. They're not reading their press clippings. Even with the press clippings being much more positive than they are now, the Broncos aren't falling for the banana in the tailpipe. They're not reading what other people are saying and saying, we are really good. And they feel like they're better than their record indicates now at 500. But at the same time, they're not getting over their skis, so to speak. And you like seeing that. So the most important takeaway, besides Simmons making big plays, besides, of course, Cortland Sutton making big plays, Russell Wilson coming through with that big shot and that big throw at the right time. Special players make special plays on special days. Marshall Faulk said it, and it still holds true today. Cortland Sutton is a special player. And whether or not he looks like his old self, like, I don't care. All I know is he's a fantastic receiver with a ton of heart. He wants to win. The dude wants to win. Justin Simmons wants to win. Even Garrett Bowles with the penalty and the, shrugging his shoulders, like Garrett Bowles is the type of guy that wants to win. Josie Jewell, type of guy that wants to win. Pat Surtain wants to win. Don't think for any second that these guys are happy getting a paycheck. Even Jerry Jeudy. I don't have a lot good to say about Jerry Jeudy, but I will tell you just his mannerisms in the locker room. He is a bit of a different fit than what the rest of the guys in the locker room are. But you saw it today. He was so happy for Cortland Sutton. He was happy when Sutton gets that touchdown grab. And you love to see that. I like to see that sort of togetherness because, again, it's really tough to win in this league. And the Broncos are staying together. And that's a good thing for this team. And going forward, learning how to win differently will be more beneficial for this team than if they just come out and keep doing the same thing over and over again, right? And in a way, there is almost a 2011 feel, like a Tebow feel, where it's like, okay, they're kind of winning the same way, and then Prater's winning it for at the end, and maybe even getting lucky on some plays, against the Bears, etc. But like with this win specifically, they didn't do it. It wasn't pretty. They didn't do the old strategy of just run it down their throat because they probably felt they couldn't. I'm one of those stubborn people who are like, you don't need to come out passing. Come out and establish the run. Keep running, even if it's not working early, because it'll work later. They didn't do any of that. Okay. So, as far as following football 101 or following the guidelines, they're just kind of winging it, but winging it won it today. Now, what can you learn from that going forward and constructing better game plans and working better towards with what your players can do? That's what I'm curious to see what the Broncos are. It's like, what's next? Again, enjoying this victory, enjoying the win streak to be sure, looking ahead to their opponents going, okay, you've got some very, very tough opponents coming up. It's not over. Nothing's easy out there. That's what Peyton Manning said. But I think overall in this Broncos game, we can learn your Samaje Perines. He wants the ball more. I'm guessing that. And he wants to win. Okay. So you know what I do? And it kind of stinks that I have to say this, but it's a results-based business. I'm taking some snaps away from Jaleel McLaughlin. Until he breaks that big one, it is a complete tell every time he's on the field. He's going to get the ball. Everybody knows it. I'm surprised Sean Payton still does it. I might just have to go to the podium and ask him, like, are you worried about creating a tell with Jaleel McLaughlin because he gets the ball like 80% of the time when he's on the field? Perhaps, and that's a fair question to coach. If he's in the right mood, I might get a good answer from that. But either way, like, put more of Samaje Perine on the field. Samaje Perine wants the ball, give him the ball. Use him earlier. And, keep him fresh. Keep both Javonte and Samaje fresh. You could use Javonte in the same way you use Samaje. If you want to keep them fresh, use them both. And then Jaleel gets fewer snaps. Sorry, you got to produce more than 1.7 a carry or 2.3 a reception. You should be averaging 10 yards a catch. If you're Jaleel McLaughlin, that's a good number for running backs. It's a great number for running backs. 7, 8 is what a lot of backs average. With Jaleel McLaughlin, he just needs to average more. And by the way, Samaje Perine on his great night as a receiver, 8.6 reception. Javonte Williams, 8 yards of reception. Jaleel McLaughlin, 2.8. It's a huge difference. Absolute monumental difference. So again, it may stink, but we can't be stuck in the narrative of a month ago. I really want to see more Jaleel McLaughlin. Yeah, now I don't. I don't need to. And he'll break a big one. And when he breaks a big one, I'll be like, congratulations. Love the guy. Love his heart. Love his game. But he's also too small. Takes on too much. He absorbs too much of the hit. Does not bounce off guys. He usually flies back. I've said this before. So yeah, Samaje was productive. Samaje won this game for you in a way, not all by himself. Justin Simmons, Cortland Sutton, etc. But Samaje, he helped you win this game. He helped you get to 500, increase your playoff chances to 28% instead of 11%. And they would have been 1% if you would have lost. Your playoff chances would be done, would be over. We would be talking about the draft at Thanksgiving. Instead, we're talking about this team potentially making a playoff run, sitting there at 5-5 after starting the season 1-5. You love to see it. You want to see more. You got to get greedy. In this league, it's too tough, man. Is anyone happy with 500? I mean, you shouldn't be. It's better than it used to be. And that's something that we all can admit and recognize and be thankful for. It's better than it was with Nathaniel Hackett because he was god-awful. But is this where Broncos country wants to be? No, you want to be in the postseason. You want to win a playoff game. I think it might be a year too early to do that. Maybe a just missed the postseason type of year is what this season is. Could be wrong. I'd love to be wrong because Lord knows this roller coaster of a season, it's been like, you better not make any definitive takes because they all seem to change. Vance Joseph's going to get fired. Nope. Defense is going to play better. Didn't play better today. Vance Joseph can't tackle for him. I get it. But again, seek the truth and speak the truth. We got to talk about it. And the truth of the matter is the Broncos are on a roll. And we all should be happy about that. We should be excited about that. We should be, overjoyed with what you're seeing now across the AFC in this conference. And again, I'm not overjoyed that Joe Burrow is out. With Joe Burrow, this league is better. The league is better when you have actual superstars, not made up stars like, oh, what a great story this quarterback is. And all due respect to Josh Dobbs, he's not a great quarterback. It's a great story, really good dude, funny. I like him. He's not a great quarterback. Joe Burrow is a great quarterback. Pat Mahomes is a great quarterback. Jalen Hurts is a great quarterback. If you lose any of those great quarterbacks, your league is less than. However, and as my man Reggie McDaniel always used to say, there's always a however in life. When the Bengals lose Joe Burrow, you automatically go, well, there's one less team in the Broncos' way because they won't make the postseason. Cleveland's in their way. The Steelers are in their way. These are the type of teams, if we see Baltimore winning that division, and Kansas City obviously going to win the AFC West, the Chargers are going to choke because that's what they do. The Raiders, is this coming down to a win it all, win everything situation, make the postseason if you beat the Raiders in week 18? Yeah, maybe. Again, getting a little too far ahead. It's steps in this thing. The next step is a tough one if you're the Denver Broncos. So can they, ride this momentum? Can they continue that momentum? And can you be better, especially when you're playing the league's best defense in Cleveland at home next week? The Texans aren't going to be any pushovers. The Chargers can put up points. Justin Herbert was mad today. But they need to fire their coach, need to put in Kellen Moore as their interim head coach. Lions will be tough. Patriots will be well coached, but likely some toughness there. The Chargers again, and then the Raiders. So you don't really have any room for any sort of mulligans. I'm not saying they're going to win the rest of the games this year, but I also don't like the idea of people who say, well, you can lose against the Lions, but you're going to, no, baby, don't lose any of them. Don't lose any of them. Lions, whatever. Lions defense is very suspect. Now they can get after the quarterback. You saw that in that game against the Bears today. But the Lions defense is their Achilles heel. We all talk about Ben Johnson and Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown, the sun god. Yeah, their defense is what's going to lose them in the playoffs. They'll probably be one and done in the postseason. And I like Lions fans, long-suffering Lions fans. First time they've had this record since John F. Kennedy was our president. So it's been a minute that Lions fans have been like this. But like, I look at the Broncos schedule and I'm saying, you got to beat Cleveland. You got to beat the Chargers twice. You got to beat the Raiders again, or for the first time this season. You haven't beat them. You didn't beat them in the Josh McDaniels era. It's not Josh anymore, but still, you got to beat them. You got to win. There's no room for mullet. Why make excuses? You know what I mean? Well, I mean, if they lose the Browns, well, and if they lose the Lions, well, I don't think any of that. I don't think any of that is a possibility for this team. I don't think you should do anything of the such, as I'm making up phrases like, no, go win as much as you possibly can, because every week's going to be different and the Browns will be killers. The Browns will be tough. A lot of what you see with Minnesota, times it by 5 or 10 or more, and that's what the Browns bring to the table. So the Broncos learned how to win when their run game wasn't working and the pass game didn't work until late. They learned how to win not winning on third downs. Again, overall 2-12 on third downs. And the 2 were at the end of the game, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. So it's like you learned a lot of ways that can help you in a game like the one you're facing next week against Cleveland, who are real blankety blankers. And in fact, I really can't stand the Browns. But like, I can recognize that defense. That defense is the best in the league. And sure, they've got DTR as their rookie quarterback. Okay, well, make the rookie pay, stuff your ground game for the Browns. Like, you learn stuff from today, because if you're Cleveland, now let's flip the script, right? What did the Broncos learn about themselves today? They learned they could win without just running the ball and dictating everything on the ground. They didn't. They were pretty much playing catch up in this game. Fox Force 5, right? They're just trying to play catch up, trying to come back, trying to figure out ways. They did figure out ways. Samaje Perine. They figured that out late in this game. So they hung around, kept getting field goals, which I'm not a fan of. But against a team like Minnesota, you can do that. And the Broncos did that, and they ended up winning. But now look at what Cleveland's looking at. Cleveland's going to watch what Minnesota did. And they're going to go, well, wait a second. We got a cream hunt, right? Who was leaping over Steelers defenders today, Jerome Ford. We got a Jerome Ford. Even Pierre Strong's a little more dangerous as a receiver. His numbers aren't going to show you that. But either way, So you look at what Cleveland learned about Denver. We're going to run the ball down their throat. And they've got a rookie quarterback. So guess what I could write my game plan for denversports.com right now. You could check out my game plan at denversports.com every single week. Like, in breaking down I don't even really need to break down the film. I could just say, hey, they're going to watch Minnesota game and go, we can do that and run the ball down their throat and play better defense, because they will play better defense. So if you're the Broncos, you have to figure out, how do we run when they're not going to let us run? Because if we rewind to some of the glory days of this Broncos team, and I don't even have to go back to Super Bowl 32 or 33. You can go back to the Clinton Portis days or the Mike Anderson days or whatever. Like, I'll go back to some of the CJ Anderson days, right? Peyton was Peyton, obviously, but in 2015, Peyton wasn't Peyton anymore. They won a Super Bowl because they leaned on the rushing attack. And they won Super Bowl 50 because they leaned on the rushing attack. Now, defenders didn't know what Peyton could or couldn't do. And because he scared him, his brain scared him so much, they kind of didn't really stack the line to stuff the run the way they could have. But imagine all the great Broncos teams that you've seen, the Jake Plummer days, right? And Tatum Bell's out there running around. Like, okay, imagine all those days and the way teams were like, we're just going to attack the wide zone concepts. Broncos had a real tough time with wide zone today. It was odd. And again, poor tackling, really poor tackling. Alex Singleton, again, not a great day. But like, you better be used to wide zone concepts. You're going to get the Browns. That's all they do. It's Stefanski, right? You got all these Shanahan disciples out there. How do you not know wide zone? How do you have such trouble? When wide zone is all about discipline. Because if you overrun a play, Alex Singleton, you're creating a cutback lane. And running back's job, as Terrell Davis told me years ago, it's bend, bang, or bounce. Bend it, bang it, or bounce it. Bounce to the outside, bend it back against play side, or bang it up the middle, right? Bang it to where the blockers are going. But if some defender overruns it because you're going laterally, there's a cutback lane, bend it back, make a big play. You know Kareem Hunt's going to do that. You know Jerome Ford's going to do that because they watched Ty Chandler and Alexander Madison do that today. So you have exposed a problem with your defense. Now, if it truly is bend but don't break, and you're going up against a rookie quarterback, just like you're going up and Josh Dobbs is a million times better than Dorian Thompson-Robinson, but DTR has some upside. Hell, one today looked better than Kenny Pickett. One guy was a first-round pick, and one guy was, a fifth-round pick? Shrine Game alum. Pickett was at the Senior Bowl. But anyway, like, if you're the Broncos, you have to look at what you exposed, because your defense got exposed against the run. And that's how teams are going to attack you. If you're going up against the Lions, Jared Goff plays YOLO ball. You can make him pay because he'll play YOLO ball. But you know what else they have? David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. Guess what they're going to do? That's going to be a problem. Chargers have Austin Eckler, respect to Eaton's finest. Raiders, Josh Jacobs hasn't really done much. We'll see if they get him off track. But every single team from here on out is going to run the ball at you. You better be sure. And you better be ready to counteract that. You better be ready to. The Broncos have to do two things coming out of this game. They have to learn how to run even when the line's stacked against them, because that's what Shanahan teams did, and they just kept running it. Hey, we're stuffing your run, and we're going to keep running it. I think the initial script needs to be better for the Broncos. Yeah, criticizing Sean Payton, because his initial script was going 3 and out, not looking good, and throwing the ball way too much. Hey, they're stacking line of stuff to run. I don't care. That's Javonte Williams. It's basically a battering ram with a football helmet. You think that team wants to attack a battering ram at the end of the game? Get him going. Get him in a rhythm. And if that means Samaje and Javonte, and that, honestly, if I'm putting the game plan together for Cleveland right now, and I know I'm getting ahead of myself, it's a post-game show, but still, that's where my mind's at. Samaje gets 20 carries. Javonte gets 20 carries. Like, maybe it's 15 each, whatever number you want. It's a lot of Samaje and it's a lot of Javonte. Sorry, Jaleel. Sidelines, like, run it down their throat. The Broncos must figure out a way, because that is more effective. One, for time of possession. Let's say, oh, you're going 3 and out anyway. You're running the ball more, Lammey, but you're going 3 and out. Yeah, well, you're using up more time than throwing it 3 times. And the clock stops. Hey, we had a 17-second drive, everybody. Like, that doesn't make any sense. No wonder your defense gassed. Again, Vance Joseph did not have a good plan. Vance Joseph's not tackling out there. because the defenders were not tackling very well in this contest. But if they're fresher, they might tackle a little better. They were not fresh because Sean Payton's plan was like pass, 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 and punt, 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 punt. It didn't work. If you're running the ball, even if you're having to punt, you're using up more time of possession and you're physically taking a toll on your opponent. This is not like second level or 4D chess or whatever. This is basic football. You've got a will. I'm going to take it from you. You know we're running. We're still going to run it, and we're going to run it down your throat. And those 2-yard runs in the first quarter are going to become 8-yard runs in the fourth quarter. But you must have dedication to the run. The Broncos didn't today. I thought it was a bad plan from Sean Payton. Now at the end, they win. Okay. So we have to seek the truth and speak the truth. We have to just say, hey, it worked to a win today. And that's all that matters. Now, what can you learn from it? Football's like life, man. Is every day, are you going to wake up? I'm going to have the best day ever. I'm going to have the best night's sleep ever. Everything's going to be perfect for me today. There's no one at work that's going to be a slappy. Or do you go to work and you run into a bunch of slappies that you work with that infuriate you? Are you driving to work and someone cuts you off in traffic? Does stuff go wrong in your day? Now, what do you learn from it? How do you persevere? How do you get wins? Again, football's like life. What did you learn? What did you learn, Broncos? You learned you better have more dedication to running the football. And you learned on that final drive, Samaje Perine needs a larger role. He just does. Like, you could do that earlier because there's really no way to stop it if you're spreading out a team like that and you're just insistent on going underneath. And I understand there's frustrations from some fans out there, and he would never admit this, but I'm sure Russell Wilson would have some frustrations as well. Like, why can't I throw it deep? Well, guess what? That's not how you got to win. You got to win this way, Russ, and take a deep shot here or there. And he did. And to Sutton, it worked out. Not that deep, but still, like, it was a big shot. It was an end zone shot. Almost looked like it could get picked off. But when you're throwing to Cortland Sutton, scouts call it my ball mentality. When the ball's in the air, it's mine. Mine. Was it, is it Finding Nemo? With all the seagulls are like, mine, 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 mine. Yeah. Cortland Sutton, mine, mine, mine. He sees that ball, mine, mine. He goes and grabs it because Cortland Sutton is always open. He's covered, but he's open because that thing that's blue, that's called the sky, throw it up, let the big man go get it. So what did you learn, Broncos? You got to keep running it. And you got to use more Samaje Perine. And if you use those short passes as long handoffs, I'm fine with that. But what you cannot do is what you had for the first basically 3 quarters of this game. They come out after halftime with the ball, 3 and out, looks like trash. And it was like, oh my God, there's no adjustments. And then when they needed to, and this is why it's a little frustrating, it's exciting they won. It's exciting their playoff chances are now 28% instead of 11%. But it also was frustrating because it's like you didn't change anything. And what they did, and when they did change, that's stuff you could have done earlier. They were playing that way the same. It's not like Minnesota all of a sudden went into prevent. No, Minnesota's doing their whole Brian Flores, like, we're sending everybody. No, we're not. Okay, like, enough, buddy. Like, we've seen it. You're going to get home at times running that sort of defense, but you also can get gashed because, hey, you're trying to move around, just snap the ball. And Russ was doing a great job just praising Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson was using his cadence. He's got one of the best barks in this league. And I remember who was the BYU quarterback that Washington got years ago. And I saw him at one of my first Shrine games, like 2007, BYU quarterback. Anyway, he was quiet as a church mouse at an all-star game. And I was telling my buddies, I was like, that's not going to work. And then he busted in the league. People liked him. I didn't like him. And again, I'm not right about everything or whatever. I'm just sharing a story because when you have a bark like Russell Wilson, Russ was barking. Okay, who's coming, who's not? Change the play. He was doing that movement, which was weird, Russ. But anyway, they have hand signals for the Broncos, and he was doing his hand signal to his teammates to say, we're changing the play because he would bark and make Minnesota move. Yeah, I mean, you can disguise, but if you can bark, your disguise is done. It's the declaration of influence. That's what this whole league is about. I'm going to declare you're going to influence, and I'm going to go off of your influence. You're showing us you're going to send, it's a zero blitz. Everybody's coming until I bark. And then I see a couple guys back up. I'm like, okay, those guys aren't coming. Now I'm going to adjust. The Broncos did a good job of adjusting. So we need to praise Russell Wilson for having that bark and learning that. And we need to praise Sean Payton for actually learning that as the game went on. You waited a little bit long, got some more gray hairs to worry about now with this Broncos team. So thanks, Sean Payton. But what did you learn for Cleveland? Because Cleveland's defense is 20 times, 25 times, a million times, whatever. They are better than Minnesota. Brian Flores likes to be exotic and send blitzes and like, yeah. Cleveland will just straight up kick your ass. They will straight up like dog cuss you. They will beat your ass. All right. You've got to be ready for a much more physical contest. Now, I'll put my tinfoil hat on. Did they reduce the numbers for Javonte this week, knowing that next week it's going to be a battle? It's going to be like, well, it was against the Steelers, like 13-10. Next week is going to be a battle. Next week is going to be trenches, right? In the trenches, offensive line, defensive line. That's what it's going to be. Can you run the ball? Can you stop the run? Because Cleveland watched this game and they go, oh, all we got to do is run the ball on these guys. Yeah, we got two guys that can do that, Kareem Hunt, Jerome Ford. And if you're the Broncos, did you limit Javonte? Because, next week he's got to have 25 carries. And, Samaje, who may want a larger role, again, I'm just guessing, Samaje may be asking for a larger role. He deserves it. After helping to win this game, he deserves it. Justin Simmons won this game. Jaquan McMillan won this game. I'm 40 minutes into this show. It's the first time I mentioned his name. He was flipping awesome out there. So, Cortland Sutton wins this game. Russell Wilson wins this game with his bark, with his command, with his throw up, toss it up to the big man, Cortland Sutton, let him go get it. So, what did you learn? What can you take away? Now you better be ready. You better be sure. Because Cleveland, as limited as they are offensively, that is a bona fide, tough out, playoff team, playoff caliber football. And that's why you'll hear other people say differently. And everyone has their own opinions. And I'm of the opinion that I don't really care what other people's opinions are. Not that I disrespect other people, but it's like, okay, I'm going to study this game. I'm going to tell you what I think. Doesn't mean I'm right all the time. If I'm wrong, I'm going to talk about it. If I'm right, I'm going to talk about it, whatever. Let's just discuss this game. I'd rather be honest about this game than be like, remember when I told you the Broncos, blah, 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 blah. Nobody cares. Okay. Nobody cares. If you're out there doing that, banging your chest on Twitter, I told you the Broncos. Yeah. You're an aloha and nobody cares. So what do we care about? Winning games. And how do you care? How do you win more games? Other people will say you can lose the Lions game or you could drop one against the Browns. I'm saying F that. Had to self-censor myself there. I'm saying forget that. Win them all. Win them all. You should not have any sort of mentality. Now, could you lose a couple and still make a run at the playoffs? Yes, of course. Don't be ridiculous. As I go Balky on you. Don't be ridiculous. But how about you just go out and plan on winning them all? And to beat Cleveland, you're going to have a hell of a plan. And you're going to have a better plan than you did tonight. Minnesota dummied up at the end. You took advantage. The Broncos won this. I'm not taking that away. Oh, Minnesota gave it away. No, Minnesota in the end is doing a little smoke and mirrors, right? Kind of like last year. They're going to do their smoke and mirrors. I still love Kevin O'Connell. I think he's a great young head coach. Actually, kind of wish the Broncos would have got him. But either way, they're doing the smoke and mirrors thing. You're just doing good football. You got to have a better football plan. Today's football plan was not good, but they won because they figured it out as the game went on. And each game is like a puzzle, and the pieces move as you're going to put them in place. So you've got to understand that your puzzle pieces are changing as the game is going on and developing. You have to adjust to that. You must have second half adjustments. The Broncos waited, and I think they were fourth quarter adjustments, right? So, but they adjusted. They used more Samaje Perine. That needs to happen more going forward. A little more Marvin Mims would be fine. Yes, it means less Jaleel McLaughlin. I don't even care. Sorry. Nicest kid ever. He's averaging 3 yards a catch. That's terrible. That is, in fact, terrible. Again, running backs need to be 7, 8 yards a catch. The best ones will be 10 yards a catch. That's where that kid needs to be, because the ability's there, the heart is there, the desire is there. He just gets bounced way too easy. Does not take contact and keep going at all. You know who does? Samaje Perine. And it's not a situation. Perine's been a backup for most of his career. When he started early on in Washington, and I loved him at OU. I think he had 300 yards and 8 touchdowns against Kansas. That's when he first got on my radar. So I'm a Samaje Perine fan. I have been for a long time. When he was with Washington, he was a featured back. He wasn't good. He's been a part-time back ever since then. He was a big part of what Cincinnati did a year ago, and nice backup complimentary piece to Joe Mixon. But he was upset that he didn't get, honestly, the featured job in Cincinnati. So he's here. You think he's real happy with the reduced role, with barely touching the football? No, he already proved it. He proved that if you give him the rock, he's going to make plays. And at the end of the day, apologies to Josh Dobbs, this is not rocket science. Playmakers, get him the ball. Guy can make plays, get him the ball. It's almost as simple as this game is at times. It's much more complicated. It's much more beautiful. It's much more intricate than that. But if you boil it down, hey, playmaker, go make a play. You right there, you make a play. Samaje Perine can do that. So have him do it more going forward. You're going to have to against Cleveland. Again, I cannot stand the Browns. They're one of my least favorite teams in the NFL. And I know Deshaun Watson isn't going to play because he's out for the year, but I cannot stand Deshaun Watson. Just like I could not stand Ben Roethlisberger. And I won't go into that. But either way, I hate Cleveland. And I will tell you, that's going to be a tough game. That's going to be a tough game. I felt they would beat Minnesota. I felt like a fool when this game plan got unleashed because it did not look like they were going to beat Minnesota. But at the end, they did beat Minnesota. So I'm glad the win streak has continued. I'm glad the Broncos are on the right track and they're finding ways to win. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. Doesn't have to be beautiful. Everything doesn't have to be razor sharp, because it isn't. And it wasn't. But they learned how to win in a different way than they had won during their previous 3 games in this now 4-game win streak. 4 times, fool. 4-game win streak for the Denver Broncos. Let's make it 5. All right, that's a wrap for tonight's program. Do the YouTube things, like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid, and comment down below. If you've commented in the chat room, looks like I got 346 comments. So I appreciate everyone for jumping on board. I'll throw up a couple just because I love you guys. Stonehands JJ cost us a TD. Yep, Roport. McLaughlin's pass protection is lacking. They don't trust. That's why I give him the ball. And then I think this is Tier Cole. This is an incredibly great point right here because of the football IQ that Perine has when he's going out of bounds. How many times have we seen players like, look, I got to fight for extra yards to keep it in bounds? Perine would get it. I'm near the sidelines. I'm going to break this arm tackle and I'm going to run out of bounds and they're going to stop the clock. Samaje Perine, speaking of 4D chess, that's next level stuff, man. A lot of players, especially when they're players who are, has got this pent up energy because they're not getting used and they may be mad about not getting used. When guys are like that, I can make a play. It's again, the Russell Wilson thing. I can make the play. Samaje is just going to do what he can do and he's going to make you pay. Samaje Perine isn't out there being like, I've got to do it all. I'm going to break somebody's ankle. He knows who he is. He knows what he does and he understands the game. That's next level stuff. I want Samaje Perine to get more of a role. And yes, that means McLaughlin's not going to play. Sorry. That's it. So anyway, Tom says, where's Mace? Mace is at the stadium. That's where Mace is at. You can catch his reports at denversports.com. Feels like 2015. Yeah. I mean, Peyton's brain was so damn good and Brock was better. Brock Osweiler was better than this version of Russell Wilson. I don't think that's controversial to say that. If you disagree, again, everyone has an opinion. But Brock, I wish Brock would have stayed. That's Peyton Manning that replaced you, dude. And I've talked to Brock on the air, so nothing off record. But you get a sense from talking to Brock Osweiler that he wishes he would have done things differently. The money wasn't that much different. You could make the argument that he still might even be playing if he'd have stayed with the Broncos because they had something going, man. So Brock Osweiler in 2015, when they ran the ball and Brock was a little bit more reduced in what he did, it still worked. And then Peyton's brain was so powerful. Even the Chargers said that when he came in at halftime. Like, we didn't know what he could do and what he couldn't do, so kind of just assumed he could do everything, and he couldn't. But they didn't know that. Carolina didn't know that. Anybody the Broncos faced on the way to the Super Bowl didn't know that. And Peyton, made it happen. So feels like 2015. If you say Brock 2015, yeah, maybe. I'd have to go back and study that year a little bit more. And then Brandon, going back to the Tebow thing, is something that I aired a similar sentiment earlier. Hang around until the fourth quarter and then find a way to win, right? Hang around for the fourth quarter and find a way to win. Eddie wants a Keanu double kiss. Let me see. I have that in this one. I'll do this. Yeah, there you go. There's your Keanu double kiss. I had to go to a different show to find it. I need to upload that to this show as well. It is Denver Sports Postgame Live. I'm Cecil Lammey, just going through some of your comments, and appreciate everyone out there for commenting on the show. Wrapping it up. Brock the Blockhead. Cecil can't shut up. Yeah, that's a problem, Tom. That's a problem. Well, maybe for some. Stay frosty, everybody. How about that? And yeah, learn from this. And did it feel like Bronco magic? I want to know, and I almost tweeted about it. The most important thing ever. You know what's funny is only 4% of our audience is on Twitter. So everyone acts like it's the biggest deal ever, and it's really pretty much irrelevant. It's an echo chamber. I don't like echo chambers. You totally agree with me, right? Yay, us. Like, no, critical thinking, debate. Like, we can do these things. We don't do these things as much anymore. That's a social commentary. But I wanted to tweet, did it feel like the magic return, like the fourth quarter, Justin Simmons making these plays, right? Magic. Cortland Sutton making the touchdown grab, magic. Jaquan McMillan making the big pick, like magic. Did it feel like that? I want to know. I mean, I'm not going to say it did. I kind of hope that returns, right? Because I'm a romantic. So I kind of have this desire of that type of Broncos football to return. Because again, you guys have been spoiled almost your entire lives. If you're a Broncos fan, for like 30, 40 years, you were spoiled, basically, from 77 until 2000, whatever it was, 2016, right? 2017. So yeah, you were spoiled for a long, long time. You had Mile High Magic for a long, long time. Did it return tonight? I think that's a great question to ask. I think it's a great question to ponder. Scorpio says, I'm awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. You don't always get the good comments, which is fine. I've got broad shoulders. It's fine. Yeah. Don't rock a man bun, Cecil. I don't think I have a man bun. It's just a ponytail. Anyway, it's a samurai look. Yeah. Russ not turning their ball over is huge. That's a great point, Dustin. Because Russell Wilson, like, when he gets into that hero mode, when he's like, I can do it, guys. Like, so you have to be careful. You have to monitor Russell Wilson. Like, Russ, you don't have to do everything. We can help. Let us help, Russ. We can help. Samaje will help. Cortland will help. Like, so Russ doesn't start fumbling, right? Holding on to the ball too long, fumbling. There are errors that Russell Wilson makes, not the interceptions necessarily. It's the fumbles. And there you go. Brandon says we're on to Cleveland. That's right. Okay. Josh says Mile High Magic is back. Okay. I almost dropped another expletive. F yeah. F yeah. If Mile High Magic is back, F yeah. And I'm sorry if I get in trouble for saying that. If you can't take it, like, I'm not even cussing, but you know what I want to say. Because if the magic is back, I think we all should be saying that. We should all walk outside right now and scream that from the heavens, just to be like, Mile High Magic is back, baby. And if that's the case, if that's what you all think, and I'm down with it, man. I'm down with it. Michael says it returned against the Chiefs. Okay. That was ending that streak. You want to talk about the stain of the Vance Joseph era and the Vic Fangio era and the Nathaniel Hackett era. You want to talk about that stain? Removing that Chiefs stain from the ledger might be the greatest accomplishment this season, even if you do make the postseason. But let's get it back. Matthew. Lauren says, fudge yeah. Okay. Everyone go outside now and say fudge yeah. Or if you see a Broncos fan, let's say you're at the gas station. I love my local gas station burritos here. Let me finish. You see a fellow Broncos fan, just go fudge yeah. Fudge yeah. When I see my dude Craig at the gas station, what up, Craig? Shout out Craig. I'm gonna walk into the gas station, Craig. I'm gonna say fudge yeah, and you're gonna know what I'm talking about. Mile High Magic back, baby. Eddie's saying we believe. How about a Mile High salute? And there's a pot stoner degenerate Jason up there in Greeley. Jason, I'm coming to see you, buddy. Better get that Slurpee machine ready at that 7-Eleven, baby. All right. Yeah, there we go. I think that's a wrap for tonight's program. And here's I'll wrap this up. Let me take a little drink here. Josh is on the money. Okay. You guys have seen me literally get physically ill talking about this team. And there was the week. It's full of comic book boards now. I bought another collection, everybody. So my trash can here in my office is full of comic book boards because I rebag and board comics when I buy a collection. If you got a comic book collection, then hit me up. Anyway, but remember the week and I was grabbing my trash can and I was almost going to put something else on screen. I was almost going to do like this so I could barf, like shut off my mic and barf. Remember that? You remember that? Because I remember that. Remember the Dolphins game when I lost my mind? I know it made for great entertainment. I know I got a bunch of messages, people being like, are you okay? Like people were worried about my mental health, which is great. I'm glad that we can talk more about that and all those sorts of things. But y'all remember that wasn't that long ago that this team was giving me an ulcer, making me physically ill, and having people concerned about my mental health because this team was stinking up the joint. But Josh's point here right now, it feels good again. It feels like Broncos football. Right? So maybe the Mile High Magic has returned because it feels like Broncos football's returned. Is Russ the answer? Yeah, okay. They're going to figure that out, baby. If I'm to guess right now, the answer is no. But we don't have to determine that right now. Is Russ the answer? Get rid of Russ. Russ is the problem. It's not even Thanksgiving, dude. Like, can we get past Christmas and then start thinking about what to do with Russ? I know that decision's coming up quick, but like, again, body of work. I want to see the body of work for this team. I'm glad that they don't make me physically ill anymore. I'm glad that people aren't as concerned about my well-being, which is fine. I'm glad I'm not throwing up on the air or almost, when you get that urge to spit right before you throw up and you try to spit so you don't throw up, not to be graphic, but like, that's how this team was making me feel on a weekly basis. I don't have that anymore. So it does feel good again. It does feel like Broncos football again. And to quote Jimmy Garoppolo, feels great, baby. Right? Sutton's been clutch. Exactly. Sutton has been absolutely clutch. Brandon's clutch. Happy Thanksgiving to you as well, Brandon. We will have, going to be positive O&B, orange and blue today with Andrew Mason tomorrow. And we will have an abbreviated schedule, even though Mason and I will both be at Broncos on Thanksgiving, and we will be at Broncos on Friday as well. We won't have shows on Thursday or Friday. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, show slate this week, 3:30 p.m. Mountain Time. It's orange and blue today. Make sure to tune in. And Troy says, gladly take the win. Exactly. Not everything was perfect. In fact, a lot was not, but you won. Not to go Dr. Phil Barnyard psychology, but how's that working out? The Broncos weren't perfect today. They won. I don't care. Russ didn't. They won. Yeah, they won. Alex Singleton couldn't tackle to save his life. Yeah, they won. They won. And yes, Rick, they do need a tight end. My man, Lucas Kroll, who has watched the Kroll movie, by the way. His dad set him down and watched it when he was a kid. So anyway, that's it. There you go. The double kiss. And then some Brazilian love. So thank you all. Appreciate you all. And as always, be safe, be kind, know that you are appreciated. Stay tuned. And would you please stay frosty?